Hello everyone, welcome to my class. This is Chandrika, lecturer in commerce from Telangana Tribal Welfare Residential Degree College for Women, Medak. Today I would like to give a lecture on single entry system of bookkeeping from Financial Accounting Sem 2 for BCom course. So, single entry system is one of the system of bookkeeping. So before entering into the single entry system of accounting, we need to discuss bookkeeping is what and what are the different types of accounts. Briefly we'll discuss. So bookkeeping is nothing but art and science of recording of transactions in the books. So here art and science of recording of monetary transactions in the books of accounts by the businessman is called bookkeeping. So to record the transactions, there is a requirement of classifying the accounts. So there is a classification of accounts into three types: personal accounts, real accounts and nominal accounts. So coming to the personal accounts are nothing but here the accounts which are relating to the normal human beings. Accounts which are relating to the normal human beings are called personal accounts, and these personal accounts also again divided into three types: natural personal accounts, artificial personal accounts and representative personal accounts. So here coming to the natural personal accounts are nothing but the accounts which are relating to the natural human beings, like purchased goods from Raju is a human being, sold goods to Ramu is a human being. Okay, so this comes under in the natural personal accounts. Then the second type of personal accounts are artificial personal accounts, the accounts which are relating to the artificial persons which are created by the law, or we can say which are created by the natural persons. Like for example, banks are created by normal human beings itself, and companies, corporations, schools, institutions and other type of organization. These all comes under in the artificial personal accounts. Then another type of personal account is representative personal accounts, the accounts which are representing indirectly the person is called representative personal accounts. Like for example, outstanding salary. Outstanding nothing but the salary which is incurred, which is due but not at all paid. So to whom you did not pay the salary, like the salary is not paid to the particular set of employees, like the employees who are working in the administrative block, for them salaries are not paid. Okay, so you are representing that particular block or particular person. For example, you did not pay the salary to X, so you are representing indirectly the X to whom you have to pay the salary. So that is why the representative personal accounts are nothing but which represent indirectly the personal accounts. So further the examples will be all outstanding expenses and prepaid insurance, prepaid expenses, those comes under in the representative personal account. So these are the three types comes under in the personal accounts. Then another category of classification of accounts is real accounts. So real accounts are nothing but here the accounts which are relating to the tangible or intangible assets. Tangible or intangible assets here. Tangible in the sense which we can see and touch, which we can physically feel it and which we can even measure it. Those comes under in the tangible assets. And coming to the intangible assets which we cannot see physically and which we cannot physically touch, but which can be measured in the value. So for example, goodwill is one of the intangible assets, like that patents, copyrights, this comes under in the intangible assets. Then Tangible assets examples are which we can see and touch, in the sense anything which we can see like machinery, furniture, land, building, all this comes under in the tangible assets. So these are the two types of real accounts. Then coming to the third category of classification of accounts, nominal accounts. Nominal accounts are nothing but the accounts which are relating to the expenses, income, losses, gains, and these comes under in the nominal accounts. So these are the three types of classification of accounts. Then coming to the single entry system and double entry system. Under the double entry system of bookkeeping, all the aspects of transactions are recorded. So in double entry system, whatever the three different kinds of accounts which we discussed just now, all those are recorded in the double entry system of bookkeeping. So under this, every transaction will have two aspects. When every transaction is having minimum two aspects, these two aspects are recorded in the double entry system of accounting. For example, salary is paid to employees. So there are two aspects here. Paid, so cash is going out, and another one is salary. Salary is an expenditure. Okay, so salary should be debited. Salary account debtors to cash account. This is what here we can see. This is the entry. Salary account debtors to cash account. When wages are paid, wages account debtors to cash account. So two aspects here. These two aspects, one is the salary, another one is cash. These are the two different aspects in a particular transaction. So these two aspects are recorded in the double entry system of bookkeeping. Means here, following the rules and regulations of a double entry system of bookkeeping, all the two aspects are recorded in the books of accounts. Both the aspects are recorded in the books of accounts, that is called double entry system of bookkeeping. Then opposite to that is whatever the topic which we need to discuss today is single entry system of accounting. Here under single entry system of accounting, both the aspects are not at all recorded. Here either one aspect may be recorded sometimes, another aspect may be omitted, sometimes both the aspect may be recorded, sometimes both the aspects may be totally omitted. So this is single entry system is we can even say it is incomplete records also, where total transaction is not recorded. All the aspects of the transactions are not recorded properly. That is why it is called even incomplete recording system also. Okay, so how it is going to happen in the single entry system? We will discuss with the examples. So see the first example here. Payment of salary wages is recorded in cash account, but salaries and wages account are not at all maintained. So see this here, the transaction. Generally for this, in case of in double entry system, when wages or salaries are paid, the entry will be like this. Salary account debtors to wages account. Salary account debtors to cash account. And wages account debtors to cash account. But in case of single entry system, what happens? Actually here cash is going out. So cash account is recorded, but salary and wages are not at all recorded. This is one thing. Then coming to the another example, if the goods are sold to the particular customer, only customer's account will be recorded, but sales account is not at all recorded in the books of accounts. Okay, so the example is here. This example, the transaction is X account debtors to sales account. It is the complete recording of transaction which comes under in the double entry system. But when it comes to the single entry system, here in the single entry system, X account is debited, but salary account is not, sales account is not credited. Okay, so one aspect of the transaction is recorded in the books of accounts. That is called single entry system. Then another example, for certain transactions, there may be possibility of recording two aspects of transactions also. Like for example here, when cash is collected from debtors, the entry is cash account debtors to cash account debtors to debtors account. So here both the aspects may be recorded. So what we can say here finally, single entry consists of for few transactions, double entry for few transactions. There is a possibility of recording both the aspects of transactions for few transactions, and there is a possibility of recording only one aspect of transaction for few transactions, and there is the possibility of not recording the transaction at all for few aspects of for few types of transactions. So see here, single entry consists of, this is a one aspect, like double entry for certain transactions like cash received from debtors, cash paid to creditors, this is one, and single entry for some type of transactions where like purchased fixed assets or payment of some expenses or receipt of some incomes, there only single entry will be possible, means one aspect of the transaction is recorded. Then third category is no entry for certain transactions, for which kind of transactions there is no entry at all. That is comes under in the bad debts, depreciation, sometimes different losses may happens, loss due to fire occurred or loss due to accident. Okay, any such type of losses or bad debts, provision for bad and doubtful debts, depreciation or appreciation on different types of assets, all those may not be recorded at all in the single entry system of bookkeeping. Then what is exactly this single entry system? It is under this system only the accounts which are absolutely required or necessary by the traders, those are recorded. So which are exactly required by the businessmen, those may be recorded in the single entry system. Okay, so when we take the three classification of accounts, the businessmen may require to or may want to record the transactions relating to the personal accounts, then he record the personal accounts, and he wants to know what is the cash flow, incoming and outgoing of cash, what is the balance of cash. So he may record the transactions relating to the cash account, but he don't want to focus on the assets and liabilities, so he may not record the real accounts and the nominal accounts also. Okay, so finally we can say here under the single entry system, one aspect of the account may be recorded relating to the particular transaction. Both the aspects may not be recorded. That is one. And another one is under the single entry system, cash and personal accounts are maintained, but not the real and nominal accounts. So all the accounts are not maintained. It is possible that some transactions may not be recorded at all. As according to the previous examples, if you see the previous slide, you can understand that there are different categories. Like few are recorded, both the aspects, few are not at all recorded, few transactions are recorded, only one side, single aspect itself. So this is about the totally the single entry system of accounting. So just we can understand here as few transactions are not recorded, few transactions are recorded one aspect, few transactions are recorded both the aspects. So with this we can understand that proper results cannot be identified, cannot be revealed with the single entry system of accounting. Then definitions. Coming to the definitions, here we are going to discuss the definitions which are given by the two people. One is according to the Kohler, a system of bookkeeping in which as a rule only records of cash and personal accounts are maintained. It is always incomplete double entry system, varying with the circumstances. So here according to Kohler, what he said, it is a rule where only cash and personal accounts are maintained, other accounts are not maintained, and according to the circumstances some transactions are recorded fully, some transactions are recorded partially. Then according to the Carter, single entry cannot be termed as a system. Why he is saying single entry cannot be termed as a system? Why means it is not scientifically practiced. Just now we discussed that when the transactions are recorded according to the situation, then we cannot call it as the science. Science is what exactly? There we will follow some rules and regulations strictly. It will not change according to the situation. But here the single entry system is going to change according to the situation. If the trader wants to record the both aspects, he will record. If he don't want to record the both aspects, he will record one aspect, and sometimes he may not record the transaction also. So that is why this is termed as preparation of accounts from incomplete records of accounting. So totally we will call it as incomplete records of accounting, and according to the Carter, it is not at all the system, because system includes what? Some rules and regulations which are framed. Those has to be followed by the particular person. Okay, so but here the person is not following the rules and regulations. That is why it is not called as a system. Then coming to the features of single entry system. Only sole traders and partnership organizations can use this system. Why means, actually under the single entry system we cannot easily reveal the results and the financial position. Why means, you might be understood that all transactions are not fully recorded. That is the reason we cannot even obtain the profit or loss. What exactly the profit or loss, what is the position of the organization, we cannot understand. Okay, so that is the reason this type of single entry system is used by small traders, where only limited transactions are there. Every day only few transactions may be taken place, and they don't want to reveal their results to the outside people, and the businessmen who are not paying exactly tax to the government, or who is not required to show their books and records to the outside people. Those organizations can use this single entry system. So we can say it is suitable to the sole traders and partnership organizations for extent. If it is a partnership organization is also large scale organization, they cannot go for the single entry system. Then coming to the second feature, under this system only cash and personal accounts are maintained. As we discussed just now, the person wants to know what is the inflow and outflow of the cash and net cash with him, so that he can do the business in a proper way. That is why he record the transactions relating to the cash, and few personal accounts also he will maintain, but he may not maintain the real accounts and the nominal accounts. Then cash book may be contain proprietor's business as well as the personal transactions. Here what is happening, personal transactions also he may record in the cash book, not only the business transactions. But generally we follow the business entity concept in accountancy, where business is separate and the owner is separate. So personal transactions are not at all recorded in the business transactions or in the business books, but that rule is also not followed in the single entry system. Then for getting factual information, it will be necessary to refer the original documents, as the total transaction is not recorded in the books of accounts. Full transaction is not recorded. The other part, to know the other part, what we have to do? We have to see the original vouchers. Original vouchers in the sense bills, documents, invoices we have to see. Okay, like for example, salary paid to so and so person, salary account debtors to cash account. So here in single entry system, he will credit to the cash account, but he may not debit to the salary account. Salary account may not be maintained under single entry system. So what happens? To whom the salary is paid, how much salary is paid, he has to go for original documents, pay slips which are issued to the employees or kept in the organization. Those has to be verified. Then only they can understand how much salary is paid to so and so person. Next, it is not governed by any definite rules. Rule of maintenance of accounts. As we discussed, some according to the situations the transactions are recorded. So there is no proper rules are followed under single entry system. But opposite to this, under the double entry system, there are some rules which are framed, which has to be followed by the businessmen when they are following double entry system of bookkeeping. Like types of personal accounts and the concepts and conventions they have to follow. Then only there will be an uniformity. But coming to the single entry system, as the concepts, conventions, and three categories of the accounts, classification of accounts are not properly, strictly, not properly followed, then there is no uniformity at all in maintenance of accounts. If there is no uniformity, it may leads to the comparison purpose also it is not useful. They cannot compare the present results with the previous year results or past year results, and the business results with the other same type of business. They cannot compare. So comparison is required for the sake of taking proper decision. So that is here lacking. That is one of the feature. Uniformity in maintenance of accounts is not followed. Then lastly, only one aspect of the transaction is recorded. As we already discussed in the single entry system, only one aspect of the transaction is recorded. Then coming to the advantages. Advantages of single entry system. It is very simple system, simple method. Whichever the transactions the trader wants, he can record. Which he don't want to record, he can remove totally, or he can eliminate those transactions. So this is the system of one of the system of bookkeeping, which is very simple and easy, and which is even flexible also. Quite flexible also we can say, because every concern may make the changes time to time, and changes in the system also they wants to do. So as it is very flexible, they can make the changes at any time. That is one of the advantage. As it is very simple, and all the transactions are not recorded properly, so many people also not required for accounting purpose. So it may leads to even lesser cost also, less costlier than the double entry system of bookkeeping. So they can just keep the one of the person for cash book maintenance, one of the person for personal accounts maintenance, and finally one person who can club these together and find the results. So with 3 to 4 people of accountant, or one person also can able to maintain the accounts of the small traders following the single entry system. So small traders generally they go for the single entry system itself. Then maintenance of accounts does not require adequate knowledge also. So a person, if he don't have the in-depth knowledge about the accountancy also, he can maintain the accounts, he can maintain the books of accounts, because how he has to record the transactions in the cash book and personal accounts, whether the person is the giver or the receiver, just few rules or the principles if the person knows, then he can easily maintain the books and accounts. Then as I said, it is suitable to the small concerns having limited number of transactions and few assets and liabilities. Like we can say only limited scale of operations whoever is doing, that person can maintain the single entry system of bookkeeping. So totally we can say single entry system of bookkeeping is nothing but recording of one aspect of the transactions in the books of accounts. This is suitable for the small scale organizations, especially sole traders, small merchants, and some of the partnership firms where they are doing a limited area business. For them, this system is suitable. Then coming to the disadvantages. As we all know that every system will have some advantages and disadvantages. As how the coin is having two sides, the same way every system will have some advantages and disadvantages. So coming to the disadvantages, first of all, in the definition itself, the definition which is given by the Carter itself says that it is not at all the scientific system, because they are not following rules and regulations. So this is not the scientific system. As it is not the scientific system, two sides of the particular transaction is not recorded, double aspect is not recorded, so arithmetical accuracy cannot be find out easily. Arithmetical accuracy cannot be checked, as trial balance cannot be prepared. So when we exactly can able to prepare the trial balance is nothing but balancing the two sides. Debit aspect must be equal to the credit aspect. If we record the transactions fully, both the aspects, then only there is a possibility of getting some debit balances and credit balances. Those debit and credit balances we can carry forward to the trial balance, and we can prepare the trial balance to know the arithmetical accuracy. But here some of the transactions debit aspects may be recorded, for some transactions credit aspect is recorded, and for some transactions both aspects are recorded, and for few transactions there is no record at all. Then we cannot easily prepare the trial balance. Impossible to prepare the trial balance to know the arithmetical accuracy. Then even if we are unable to prepare the trial balance, then finally we cannot even prepare the financial statements also, which includes trading P&L account and balance sheet. Anyway, to prepare the trading and profit and loss account, we need nominal accounts. Nominal accounts which are relating to the expenses, income, losses and gains. So there is no information about nominal accounts in the single entry system. So impossible to prepare the trading account to know the gross profit, gross results, and in the same way even there is no possibility of preparing profit and loss account to know the net profit or net loss. Then finally even balance sheet also we cannot prepare. Why? Means real accounts also not maintained under the single entry system. As the real accounts are not maintained, we cannot prepare the balance sheet, because balance sheet itself includes all the real accounts like assets and liabilities. So absence of those things we cannot prepare properly the balance sheet also. So this is one of the drawback. So finally we cannot even know the arithmetical accuracy, we cannot know the financial position also, financial results and the financial position with the help of this single entry system of bookkeeping. So another disadvantage is this system gives scope for misappropriation and frauds. As accountant is not recording two aspects of the transaction, then one aspect may be omitted or intentionally omitted, or sometimes he don't want to record, or there may be a gap between the recording of the transactions and actually happening of the events. So because of that there is a more scope of misappropriation, and this may leads to fraudulent activities also, because proper checking cannot be possible. So as the transactions are not recorded properly, internal checking system cannot be done. So here you can see this, the internal checking system and internal control system is not possible. If all the transactions are recorded properly, vouchers, invoices are maintained properly, then only there should be a proper internal checking and internal control system is possible in the organization, which with those things they can avoid the misappropriations. They can reduce the fraudulent activities in the organizations. But that is not possible in these organizations where single entry system is followed. Then in the absence of final accounts, it becomes difficult to know the exact position of the business. So as I said, financial statements cannot be prepared easily, and proper way of financial statements is not possible. So which may not give the proper results also. So we cannot even identify what is the position of the particular business organization. Then accounts maintained by single entry system are generally not accepted or recognized by the tax department. Either it can be sales tax department or income tax department, and even other departments and courts also may not accept, because total transactions are not recorded, proper internal checking, internal control system is not there. There may be some fraudulent activities may be done in the organization, misappropriations may be happened already. So that is the reason. And even another one is there is no proper financial statements also. So when these sales tax department or income tax department and courts and outsiders, totally, how these outsiders are going to accept the accounts of the particular organization in case if the accounts are maintained properly following the rules and regulations of the double entry system of bookkeeping, as well as following the principles and concepts, conventions of the accounting, then only outsiders can easily accept those books and records. Here, these outsiders, either the court or the sales tax or income tax department, they may not have the confidence because there is no proper rule of recording of the transactions in the single entry system of bookkeeping. Then another disadvantage is the system lacks reliability. Reliability in the sense here, no one believe. By seeing these books, they may not even draw the conclusions properly, and they don't have the confidence on the transactions which are recorded by the businessman. That is the reason this system lacks reliability. Once it is lacking the reliability and outside people are not having confidence, they are not believing the transactions which are recorded in the books of accounts, then there is no possibility of raising the loan from banks and financial institutions. So actually speaking, any businessman in a particular situation, they need funds, so they may go for the taking loan from banks or financial institutions. At that time, this system of accounting is not at all giving the scope to raise the finances from outside people. Outsiders, normal merchants or normal organizations, or from banks or financial institutions. Why means there is no reliability, one thing, and there is no proper financial statements. Transactions are not recorded by following the rules and regulations. That is the reason they cannot even raise the financial assistance from outside people. Loans also they cannot get from outside people. This is one of the disadvantage. Then, as there is no proper financial statements are prepared, then financial decision making is also very difficult, because management accounting, one of the branch of accounting which is totally depending on the financial accounting. If financial records are maintained properly, each and every transaction which is relating to the which can be measured in terms of money, those all should be recorded in the books of accounts according to the double entry system of bookkeeping. So once all these monetary transactions are recorded in the books, then only it is going to give the true picture. Then financial account is perfect. Then this may give the base to the management accounting, where the managers are going to take the financial decision making. So management accounting is totally depending on the financial accounting. If there is no proper recording of the transaction, then management accounting cannot be done properly. Financial decision making is not possible with the help of single entry system. Then it is even difficult to sell the business also. In case if the businessman wants to sell, at that time he needs to calculate the purchase consideration. For calculating the purchase consideration, there is a requirement of knowing the value of the assets, tangible, intangible assets, values has to be known. But here the drawback is real accounts are not at all recorded properly. Tangible, intangible assets are not recorded properly. Then how can the person can able to calculate the purchase consideration? So it is very difficult to calculate the purchase consideration. In turn, he cannot sell easily the business. He may not get the good value for his business at the time of selling the business. Then the last disadvantage is it is actually an impractical system. Why it is impractical means, according to the situation, the trader is recording the transactions. So totally his according to his wish, he is recording the transactions. Then at that time what happens? No one will believe. So only he has to believe his accounts. So practically this single entry system may not be giving the maximum advantage to the traders. So many disadvantages are there. Only the advantage is it is very simple system. Less cost may be incurred, and few people are required. Only few people are required for managing the accounts and records. And another one is, we can say, quite flexible. These are the few advantages. Comparatively disadvantages, there are very less advantages of the single entry system of bookkeeping. Then coming to this difference between the single entry and double entry system of bookkeeping. So as we discussed already in the first slide, single entry is nothing but recording one aspect of the transaction. Double entry system is nothing but recording all the aspects or both the aspects of the particular transaction. That is called double entry system. Then coming to little bit, we are going to discuss about the double entry system when it was started. So this double entries, prior to this double entry system invented, merchants or the traders, they used to go for the single entry system itself. They used to apply this single entry system only to know the results of the business. But this double entry system was first time published by the one of the person, Luca Pacioli, in the year 1494 in Italy. He was the first person published principles of the double entry system in the year 1494. That is the reason even this person is called as a father of accounting. Who is this? Luca Pacioli. Luca Pacioli is one of the person who invented or who published double entry system of bookkeeping. Okay, then coming to this differences. What are the main differences between the single entry and double entry system of bookkeeping? If you see here the picture, with the picture itself we can understand one of the difference here. Double entry system of bookkeeping is followed by all different organizations like ABC company, XYZ company, companies, corporations, industries. They will go for the double entry system of bookkeeping. Then another side, if you see the picture, single entry system, you can see here small merchants who are doing everyday, day-to-day business. Very less transactions may take place, and their scope of area is also very limited to the particular local area or a particular village or particular colony itself. So there the single entry system is applicable. Okay, this is one of the difference. Then coming to the in-depth discussion about the differences between double entry and single entry system of bookkeeping. So in double entry system, as we discussed, both the aspects of each transaction are recorded, and single entry, only one aspect is recorded. So because of that, we can say single entry system of bookkeeping is incomplete. It is incomplete and unsatisfactory and even unscientific also. Why? Means there is no proper rule and regulation to be followed under single entry system. But when it comes to the double entry system of bookkeeping, it is complete and satisfactory and scientific system, because full transaction is recorded, two aspects of the transactions are recorded, and even outside people can get the satisfaction by seeing the accounts, by verifying the accounts, and it is a scientific system. Why we call it as a scientific system? Means there are some rules and regulations and principles followed under the double entry system of bookkeeping. Then coming to the other difference, it is possible to prepare trial balance in according to the double entry system, and according to the single entry system, it is not possible to prepare the trial balance. So because of that, arithmetical accuracy cannot be verified with the single entry system. Then arithmetical accuracy of the books of accounts can be verified with the help of double entry system of bookkeeping. Then another difference is all types of accounts are kept under single entry system. As we discussed, three types of accounts: real, nominal and personal accounts. All the transactions which are relating to all these three types of accounts are maintained under double entry system. But in case of single entry system, you can see only the accounts relating to cash are kept. Cash related transactions are maintained, and sometimes personal accounts. Personal accounts and cash related transactions only maintained under single entry system. Then it is possible to prepare the profit and loss account and balance sheet with the help of double entry system, as two aspects are recorded. Nominal accounts are there to know the profit or loss of the particular organization, and real accounts also maintained. With that, they can even go for knowing the financial position, assets, liabilities, what are the assets and what are the liabilities, the person can able to know, and with those things he can even prepare the balance sheet also. So finally we can say with the double entry system of bookkeeping, financial position can be known easily and financial results also can be known. What is the profitability condition of the particular business can be known easily with the double entry system of bookkeeping. But when it comes to the single entry system, it is very much difficult to prepare the profit and loss account. To know the profit or loss, it is difficult because all types of transactions are not recorded properly. Two aspects are not recorded. So generally nominal accounts are not recorded, but to know the profit or loss, we need nominal accounts exactly. Then even here balance sheet cannot be prepared properly because not having the real accounts, but we can prepare only the statement of affairs by deriving some values from assets and liabilities with the available information. But it is also very difficult to find out the values of assets and liabilities with the help of available information. Then coming to the other difference, it is reliable system and accepted by all the outsiders. As it is reliable system accepted by outside departments like sales tax department, income tax department, courts and other organizations also can believe and accept and recognized by all these outsiders, this double entry system. Coming to the single entry system, it is not reliable system. That is the reason outside people may not accept. Sales tax department, income tax department and courts may not accept this system. That is one of the we can say drawback as well as the difference between double entry and single entry. Then last difference is accounts maintained under single entry are useful for analysis of financial position. As here the financial statements are prepared properly, so all the accounts are maintained under double entry system of bookkeeping. So financial position can be known and even we can analyze also, we can study the financial position and interpretation is possible. We can even use this data for the financial decision making. So here analysis with the help of different ratios, assets ratio or turnover ratios or different ratios can be used for analyzing the financial position. But when it comes to the single entry system, accounts maintained under single entry are not useful for analysis and decision making because all accounts are not maintained properly. That is the drawback. Then even though we are maintaining even though few organizations are maintaining single entry system, how they can ascertain the profit or loss and how they can even show the financial position, they can reveal the financial position. We can use some methods here. There are two methods for ascertainment of profit or loss under the single entry system. There are two methods. One is statement of affairs net worth method and another one is conversion method. For ascertainment of profit or loss under single entry system, there are two methods. One is statement of affairs method and another one is conversion method. The other name for the statement of affairs is net worth method. So in this session we are going to discuss only one method, that is statement of affairs method. What are the steps, how to find out the profit or loss and how to get the financial position of the particular organization when they follow the single entry system of bookkeeping. Then coming to the steps here, first we need to prepare the statement of affairs to know the capital at the beginning and capital at the end. So you will be given the information about some assets and liabilities of the particular organization beginning and end of the year. With that information you have to prepare the statement of affairs to know the opening capital and to know the closing capital. After that prepare the statement showing the profit or loss made during the period. In a particular period, whether the organization got the profit or incurred loss, to know that you need to prepare another statement, that is called statement of profit or loss for the particular year. Then first we will see the format of the statement of affairs. You need to write that statement of affairs as on, if it is the beginning of the year, you have to write so and so year like 1st April 2015, and if it is end of the year, you have to write statement of affairs as on 31st March 2016. Okay, so see the statement of affairs format. It is, if you see it, you can understand that it is just like our balance sheet itself, which we did in the final accounts. See here, this is exactly the format of the balance sheet. Left side you have liabilities and right side you have to take all the assets. So under the liabilities also, all liabilities like current liabilities, long-term liabilities, capital, and some of the outstanding expenses. So current liabilities, sundry creditors, bills payable, bank OD, and capital. This is owner's capital. This is going to, you are going to get this balancing figure. To find out this capital only, you are preparing this statement of affairs. So asset side, what all assets are given in the particular question: fixed assets, current assets like sundry creditor, bills receivable, stock, investments, cash, and bank balance. All these, whatever the information is given, assets, all those assets you have to take on the asset side, and the information which is given relating to the liabilities, all those liabilities you have to take on the liability side. Then finally you will get the balancing figure. The difference between the assets and liabilities is the capital, which you want to know. So this is the balancing figure which you are going to get from the statement of affairs. Then next format. After getting the opening and closing capital, you have to prepare the statement of profit or loss for the particular year. For which year you are going to find out the profit or loss, that you have to write. Statement of profit or loss for the year ending. Then in this statement you have to learn, students, capital at the end of the year. You should start with the capital at the end of the year. Then add drawings to that. This is drawings for the drawings during the year. Either drawings are nothing but whatever the amount or the goods which are taken by the proprietor for personal use. If he has drawn cash for his personal use, and if he has taken some goods for personal purpose, then those comes under in the drawings. Then drawing should be added. Next, additional or further capital. Additional capital introduced during the year. Other than the opening capital, in case if there is a requirement of capital in between, then the owner may introduce the additional capital. That is called further capital or additional capital. If it is there, you have to deduct here. Then after adding drawings and deducting the additional capital, you will get here adjusted capital. This is the adjusted capital at the end of the period. From that, you have to deduct the capital at the beginning. That is nothing but opening capital. Beginning of the year capital you have to deduct. After deducting that, if you are getting here plus amount like positive figure, then it is called as profit. Profit before adjustments. If you get here negative amount, it is called loss before adjustments. Then how you are going to get the profit? If adjusted capital, this is adjusted capital is more than the capital at the beginning, then you will get positive amount. If adjusted capital is less than the capital at the beginning, then you will get the negative figure. Then it is called loss. If you get negative figure, it is called loss. If you get positive figure, it is called profit. Then after that, you have to take some adjustments. If in the question adjustments are given, those adjustments you have to take below. Adjustments also, which one you have to add, which one you have to deduct, those we are going to discuss. Appreciation in the fixed assets. If any increase in the fixed assets, that should be added. Provision for discount on creditors. If the organization is providing any discount for the creditors, discount for the creditors in the sense when they are paying before the due date, some discount may be allowed. For that discount, again provision is created. because discount is a loss. For that the provision is nothing but anticipating the future losses, some amount is kept aside. So that provision, if it is there on the discount on creditors, you have to add it. Then what all you have to deduct? So other than this, we need to add even interest on drawings. Interest on drawings, if a amount drawn by the proprietor, on that if the interest is charged, then proprietor needs to pay the interest on drawings to the organization, then that should be added here. And in case if there is any accrued incomes should be added. Accrued income in the sense income which is earned but not received, that is called accrued income, that should be added. Then what all you have to deduct? Here, see the list of the adjustments which you need to deduct from the profit or loss. One is the bad debts to be written off. Bad debts are nothing but the debtors which are not recoverable. Irrecoverable debts are called bad debts. Okay, bad debts should be deducted. Provision for doubtful debts. For these bad debts, we will provide a provision. This bad debts, for those bad debts, again we will create a provision. That is called provision for bad and doubtful debts. That should be deducted. Generally, this will be given some percentage you have to calculate. Then provision for discount on debtors. In case if the debtors are in case if we are going to pay the amount, if we are going to receive the amount from debtors within a due time, then discount has to be provided. For that the provision which is created. Then depreciation on assets, decrease in the value of assets, that is called depreciation. Then interest on capital, this you have to calculate on the opening capital separately. In case if the further capital introduced date is given, on that you have to calculate separately. Then interest due on loan, any loan which is taken by the proprietor, on that loan interest is due, that is outstanding interest, you have to deduct here. Then proprietor's salary payable, if any salary is payable to the proprietor, that should be taken here. Then outstanding expenses, all outstanding expenses should be deducted, like outstanding salary, outstanding rent, outstanding commission, outstanding interest, all those comes under in the outstanding expenses. Then after deducting these different adjustments according to the question, you will get the net profit or loss. So here also again, if you get the positive amount, then it is called net profit. If you get negative amount, then it is called loss. Okay, this is how you have to prepare the statement of profit and loss for the particular year. Then based on this discussion, we'll do one of the problem. See the example problem. A businessman keeps his books of accounts in single entry system. Following the information is given to you. So you are given this information. Some assets and liabilities are given. Few assets are given and liabilities are given. This is 31st March 2017, 31st March 2018. 31st March 2017 is nothing but this is the beginning of the year. So this is total information is relating to the opening statement of affairs, and end of the year is this one. 31st March 2018 is the end of the year. So this information is relating to the closing statement of affairs. Then to make it easy, what we are going to do, instead of preparing two statement of affairs separately, I'll show you statement of affairs preparing both at a time, taking two columns in the statement of affairs. Then other than this, additional information is also given. This is additional information here. He introduced further capital. Further capital is nothing but additional capital, and date is mentioned here. Date is mentioned here 1/7/2017, means on 1/7/2017 he brought the additional capital. On that, if there is an interest, you have to calculate interest for left out months. From 1/7/2017 to 31st March 2018, it will be 6 months. So you have to calculate 6 months interest on this. Only 6 months interest has to be calculated, and on the opening capital you have to calculate full interest for 12 months. Then he had withdrawn 400 per month. Per month 400 means calculate for 12 months. This becomes the drawings. For domestic purpose he said, and 12,000 to meet his son's education purpose. So his son's education purpose is also the drawings itself, because using some amount from the business for his family purpose is called as a drawings only. Son is the family member, not the business member, and this amount is used for paying the son's education fees. So this is also drawing. So here in the question you have two drawings. One is per month he is drawing 400 for domestic purpose, and he has drawn 12,000 for son's education. This is also drawings. Sometimes even in the question you may be given goods are taken for domestic purpose also. Then goods is also you have to take under drawings. Then next one, appreciate land. Appreciation is nothing but increasing the value of the asset. Then provide 5% discount on creditors. Accrued commission. Okay. Accrued commission you have to add. Discount on creditors you have to add. Appreciation on land and building you have to add. Then coming to the other adjustments. Next adjustment, furniture is to be depreciated, and building 5% depreciation. So decrease in the value of assets you need to deduct. Provide 5% provision on debtors. This is also you need to deduct. Outstanding rent. All outstanding expenses have to be deducted. Then these all are the adjustments. Then finally what is you are asked to prepare the profit or loss statement for the year ending 2018 and revised statement of affairs also. Revised statement of affairs is to know the position of the business. Then with this question we are going to do now problem. So first step in the statement of affairs method, you have to prepare the statement of affairs at the beginning and at the end of the year to know the opening and closing capital. Okay, see the next slide. This is the statement of affairs as on 31st March 2017 and 31st March 2018. So what I am doing here, both the statements at a time I am preparing to save our time. Instead of drawing 2 times statement of affairs, opening statement of affairs separately, closing statement of affairs separately, what we are doing here, both the statements we are drawing in one statement only, taking 2 columns. Taking 2 columns, one is opening column, opening date is given here left side and closing date. In the same way right side, asset side also opening date and closing date. Then you should be very careful when you are preparing both the statements in one format itself. What you have to do, opening balances you have to take in column, in this column properly, and closing balances in this column properly. Then only you can get the exact answer. Then see here what all opening balances in the question. Take out the question and what all assets are there. From that question you can see the assets. See this question, opening balances, closing balances here, and what all assets here, cash, furniture, stock, debtors, bank, building, land. These all are the assets except creditors. Creditors is liability. So as usually all these assets, what all assets are there here except except creditors. Creditors you have to take on the liability side. This one you have to take on the liability side and left out all these assets on the asset side. In the opening column separately and in the closing column separately. Then the balancing figure you will get capital at the beginning, capital at the end. So see that statement solution. Statement of affairs, opening and closing. So here I have taken all the assets on the right side. These are the opening assets. All these assets I have taken: cash, furniture, stock, debtors, bank, building, land, and the creditors on the left side. Okay, then all these assets add. After adding, we are getting here 73,700. Then take that 73,700 on the liability side. Then deduct this 3,500. You are getting the balancing figure 70,200 is called capital, opening capital balancing figure. Now in the same way, closing balances also. All the closing assets, cash to land, all these assets I have taken on the right side, asset side, in the closing date column. Okay, then find the total of the assets. Then creditors on the liability side in the closing date. Then right side, whatever the balance you are getting, take that on the liability side, 73,150. From that deduct 4,000. Then we are getting closing capital is 69,150. So this is capital at the end, closing. This is capital at the beginning, opening capital. Okay, then we'll start now statement of profit and loss in the next slide. See, capital at the end of the year 69,150. See the previous slide, 69,150. This is capital at the beginning, 70,200. Okay, then I have taken here capital at the end of the year 69,150. Then drawings. We need to add according to the format of the statement. Drawings you have to add, deduct additional capital. So drawings I am taking here. There are two drawings. See the adjustments. Drawings he has withdrawn 400 per month. So 400 into 12 you have to take, and 12,000 for son's education purpose. So here drawings I have taken 400 into 12, 4,800 for domestic purpose, and next for son's education purpose 12,000. These two drawings we need to add. 12,000 plus 4,800, 16,800 we have to add. Then additional capital introduced is given in adjustment 5,000, which we need to deduct. Then after adding 16,800 and deducting 5,000, you are getting here 80,950 is called adjusted capital at the end of the period. From that, deduct capital at the beginning. Capital at the beginning is 70,200. This we got from the previous slide, statement of affairs. This is the 70,200 is the capital at the beginning. Then deduct the opening capital or capital at the beginning. Then we got here, this is the profit, positive amount we got here. That's the reason I said here profit, for the profit before adjustments. Then what all we have to add, those we need to discuss. So add appreciation on land. Appreciation on land is given in the adjustments. Provision for discount on creditors 5% is given, and there is an accrued commission also. You can see the adjustments once. Appreciation on land and building 10%, provide 5% discount on creditors, accrued commission. These three we need to add to the profit. Okay, so see again this statement. Appreciation on land. Here take the land balance 50,000, on that calculate 10%. 50,000 into 10%, 5,000 is the appreciation in land. Next, provision for discount on creditors. This creditors is 4,000. On that 5% you have to calculate. So it becomes 200. Then there is another adjustment, accrued commission. Accrued commission is 6,000. Okay, so add all these things and take in the outer column 11,200. This you have to add. Then what all you have to deduct. Furniture depreciation, interest on capital, depreciation on building, and provision on discount on debtors, outstanding rent. These all left out adjustments you have to deduct here. Sorry, one second. See the next slide, provision for discount on debtors. This provision you have to calculate on the closing debtors. This, please remember this, you need to calculate provision always on the closing debtors. 4,000 is a closing debtors at the rate of 5%, 200. Then coming to the depreciation. Depreciation on assets, there are two assets on the depreciation is given in the adjustment. Furniture 10%, building 5%. This depreciation you have to calculate on opening balances. This is very, very important because depreciation is always decrease in the value of the asset from the beginning of the year and up to the end of the year. If you use that asset, then only we will calculate the depreciation. That is the reason we have to calculate depreciation on the opening balances of the assets. Even appreciation also. Depreciation and appreciation on the assets you have to calculate on the opening balances. Then interest on capital. Interest on capital also you have to calculate on the opening balance. See here, 70,200 is the opening capital which you can see in the statement of affairs on the 10%. Because beginning of the year capital is there for 12 months. So we are calculating here for 12 months interest on capital. So that becomes 7,020. Then on additional capital also you have to calculate in case additional capital date is given. If the date of the introduction of the additional capital is given, then you can calculate. Okay. So additional capital introduced on 1/7/2017. In between additional capital is introduced. So 5,000 into 10%, in between, as it is in between 6 months only. There is a left out period is 6 months. So 6/12. Then we are getting here 250. Okay. So 7,020 plus 250, 7,270. This is interest on capital. Then there is an outstanding rent. Outstanding rent is 4,000. So all these you have to deduct. Add all these things, take in the outer column, you need to deduct. Then here, see the previous slide. Profit before adjustments we got 10,750. To that you need to add appreciation on land, provision for discount on creditors and accrued income. Then 11,200 if you add, we are going to get 21,950. Then from 21,950 deduct all these things, 12,170. Then we got here 9,780 is the profit. Net profit for the year is 9,780. Like this, you need to find out the profit or loss during the year with the given information under single entry system of bookkeeping. Then in the question you are asked another one also, you need to prepare the revised statement of affairs. See, this is the revised statement of affairs as on closing date 31st March 2018. So revised statement of affairs both are same and both are similar to the balance sheet itself. Left side liabilities, right side assets. So, okay. So when we are preparing revised statement of affairs, all closing balances we have to take here. What all closing balances given in the question? See the question once. This is the question. 31st March 2018. Here what all balances are given. These balances we have to take. This is the most important point you have to remember. Don't take here opening balances. These opening balances you cannot take the in revised statement as on closing date. You are writing their closing date. So you have to take all these closing balances and what all adjustments we did in the statement of profit and loss. All those adjustments should be reflected in the revised statement of affairs. First point is you have to take all the closing balances in the closing statement of affairs, in revised statement of affairs, and what all adjustments which are given in the question. These all adjustments, all these adjustments has to be reflected in the revised statement of affairs. Okay, that is very important thing. Then see the revised statement of affairs. Here if you see the first asset side, cash closing balance is, we have 150 closing balance. Then take that closing balance on the right side, 150. Next, furniture closing balance is 2000. From that you have to deduct the depreciation. Depreciation on the furniture we have calculated in the previous slide, 200. 2000 minus 200, 1800. Next, building. Building is 10,000. From that deduct the depreciation 500, 9,500. Next, debtors closing balance is 4,000. You have provision for bad and doubtful debts. Deduct the provision for bad and doubtful debts which we calculated there 5%, and take here, deduct it and take 3,800 in the outer column. Then bank balance, closing balance as it is because there is no adjustment. Next, land closing balance 50,000, and here on the land there is an appreciation. Appreciation should be added. 50,000 plus 5,000, 55,000. Next, stock is 6,000. Then accrued commission is there. Adjustment. Accrued commission is what? Commission which is earned but not at all received. We are going to receive in future. So that is asset. So we need to take on the asset side. This is asset side. Then coming to the liability side, there is an adjustment, outstanding rent. Take that outstanding rent, and we'll see first creditors. Creditors closing balance 4,000. Then provision for discount on creditors is there in adjustment, that you have to deduct. 4,000 minus 200, 3,800. Okay, so all these we have taken closing balances, and if any adjustment is there, those adjustments are reflected in the revised statement of affairs. But coming to the capital you have to take opening balance. In the opening statement of affairs, whatever the balancing figure we got, capital there, that capital you have to take, and to that add additional capital 5,000. Interest on capital, total interest on capital 7,270, and add net profit which we got in the previous slide. Net profit 9,780, and this is interest on capital 7,270. We need to add interest on capital 7,270, net profit 9,780, and the last one is drawings. Drawings is total drawings 16,800. First for domestic purpose 4,800 and 12,000 for son's education fees. Both we added here, taken 16,800 we need to deduct. Okay, so this is very important, students. Capital at the beginning you have to take in the revised statement of affairs. Add additional capital, interest on capital. Add these three. Additional capital, interest on capital, and if you have net profit, you have to add. And deduct drawings. If in case interest on drawings is there, that also you have to deduct. Interest on drawings also you have to deduct. Then even if you have net loss has to be deducted. Okay, so after adding and subtracting all these things, we got here the capital is 75,450. Okay, now add all these assets and liabilities. Both the sides we got the profit here 83,000. I think here slide is cannot see, but total is 83,250. 83,250 on the both the sides. So revised statement of affairs must be tallied. Both the sides. Liabilities must be equal to the assets. Then only whatever the solution, whatever the problem you did know, that is correct. perfectly correct, that we can say. Okay, so this is how ascertainment of profit as well as even preparing the revised statement of affairs under statement of affairs method. First method, statement of affairs method, in that we discussed one problem and the total format and how to get the profit and how to prepare the revised statement of affairs we discussed. Okay, so we are now at the end of the session. So just we will recapitulate what all we are discussed in this session. Just 2 minutes. So what we discussed in the session, we discussed single entry system, meaning and definitions we discussed, and we discussed features of the single entry system, advantages and disadvantages also we discussed. Then difference between single entry system and double entry system. In the both the systems, what are the differences are there, how these systems are differentiated, we discussed in depth. Then methods for calculating the profit. For ascertainment of profit or loss, how many methods are there? There are 2 methods. One is statement of affairs method or net worth method, and the second one is conversion method. So in this session I covered only statement of affairs method. Statement of affairs method, steps we discussed, okay, and how to prepare statement of affairs to know the opening capital and to know the closing capital. We prepared statement of affairs and we prepared statement of profit or loss also to know the profit or loss. Okay, then we prepared even revised statement of affairs to know the total position. This is what we did in the statement of affairs. So first method of ascertainment of profit or loss we discussed in depth. Revised statement of affairs also how to prepare we discussed. With this I am closing this session. Thank you everyone. Thank you for watching this video. If you like it, please subscribe and share it, and please comment below. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thanks a lot. Thank you everyone.